You really shouldn't start with a blank new canvas when you're creating a Canvas Power Apps application. You should really start with a template, either a template that you've built in a way that you love to develop all your apps, it- or you get a template that somebody else has written, that has created, that adds a lot of benefit and reduces the time to actually start using a template to start your next project on. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. Now, you guys might already know that I released a video just last night. We've got a special announcement. I'm about to hit 20,000 subscribers, and I wanted to show you guys my appreciation, and actually am reducing the price of almost everything that I offer by 50%. I just wanted to mention that just in case you saw that. And one of those things is the Jumpstart Kit, which is what I have here on the screen. It's the template that took me months to build. It's something that I love to start all my applications with. And later on, I'll tell you about the Jumpstart Kit version 2 that we're building as a group. I have a whole community on that. And I'd like to talk about this template, and this isn't a video to try to sell anyone on anything like purchasing this Jumpstart Kit. What I want to do is show you an example of a template that you could build or buy, whatever works for you in your situation. I have a whole series of videos here in a playlist on this YouTube channel showing you how to essentially create everything that I have in this template. So you're more than welcome to build your own and take all of the ideas and the ways in which I created this template and actually build it yourself, and not pay me a dime for this. But if you wanted to start with something and not have to spend hours building it yourself, you could do this. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you are the features in which I have in this template that you might want to implement in your own. Now, every application really does need to have a menu system, some type of security. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. There's an echo. Let me see if I can figure this out here. Yeah, I knew that might happen. Me using a new tool, this OBS. Did that take care of the echo? I wanted to thank you guys here. So Jonas became a member. Thank you, Jonas. Thank you for supporting the channel. And Joseph, would you be able to confirm that the echo is gone? If you guys look up my very first live stream I did here on the channel, I had an echo for like the first 15 minutes. And ever since then, I've always tried to do everything I can to make sure I don't have something like that. So hopefully it is gone. It says it is better. Now, I appreciate you telling me that it's better. Is it completely gone? Hopefully. Okay. So if I go to a particular screen here within this Jumpstart Kit, this screen echo is gone. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you so much for letting me know that. Very good. One of the great things that I love about this template that I built, and I could no Joseph, thank you. You no need to apologize. That actually saved not only you and me and everybody else that might watch this video either live or in the future a lot of annoyance by hearing an echo. So thank you. This feature, if I click on these different items, so I've got all these themes that I defined. Now, I used to work for the state of Florida, and they had a lot of these themes defined. Now, you may not care for these themes, but a lot of this came from their requirement. If you were going to build an app for the state of Florida, for the agency I worked for, you would have to pick from 6 to 8 themes. Now, I've added 1 or 2 of my own here. The Power Apps Purple is one that I added. I think the dashboard is one that I added. But the blue, green, red, the earth, the pond, these are color themes that I actually adapted into my template because whenever I created an app within Power Apps, it had to go along with one of these themes. So when I talk to people from different departments and they wanted an app built in Power Apps, then I would say, okay, which one of these themes do you like the best? And then we would go with that. Now, you can tell by me clicking on these different themes that it dynamically can change the themes. Now, you could have this set up so a user could pick their own theme. I really don't like that option or that idea for an application, because any given application within an organization should look consistently the same for everyone. So when they see it on the screen, let's say you're in a meeting and somebody shares their screen, just by looking at the screen, oh yeah, well that's the invoicing application, and then maybe a different application might have a different a little bit different of a color theme. Most applications that you build should adhere to an organization's style guide that outlines all the colors that you're allowed to use, the logos, how you use the logos, the fonts, and all that type of stuff. So whenever I build an app for an organization, I ask for their style guide and I customize it for them. But having this capability, this feature in here, I think is sort of neat. I mean, if you think about it, something that a user perhaps should be able to pick is either a light or dark mode. So for each of these themes, you could have a light and dark mode. Okay. So one of the main features here, like all the colors for all these controls are set to look at a global variable that could dynamically change like this. Now we could have a whole database table or a SharePoint list that defines 50 or 100 of these different color palettes that could be brought into a drop-down list like this, and a user could pick it. Just giving you ideas of things that you could do with your Power Apps app. A lot of people that come to Power Apps, a lot of times they wonder, hey, this idea that I have for an app, is that even possible? And most of the time I say, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I could almost do anything with Canvas apps. And whenever I've come up to a limitation, like, oh, Power Apps can't do this or that, there's usually some workaround that I can put in that works great. The only reason that I would steer people away from Power Apps is one of the main reasons. The limitation is it's not really meant for building apps for, let's say, future customers or even people outside your organization. Now you could invite people as external guest users and they could use the app, but that requires some manual process or for you to build an automation to build that in there. But generally speaking, you're going to be building apps that are going to be used within your organization. So that is probably the top limitation of the list of limitations that I know of with Canvas Power Apps to just sort of keep in mind. So if you're doing freelancing and somebody says, hey, I want to build an app that will sit in the App Store. Now Microsoft did release WRAP, W-R-A-P, that's the name of a feature where you could do that. But generally speaking, it's meant to be used within your organization. Now here on the screen, you do see all the different colors that make up a particular color theme that is selected over here on the side. And if you wanted to add your own, you could click on this button and open up this code here. And you'll see all of the values that make up a particular color palette or a theme, a styling, including a spinner. Okay, so if I run this, I've got a spinner for each of these themes here. Yeah, and I see data is king. Good morning, I created an app where the user can pick and choose a theme of the app by drop down. Very good. Yeah. So if you were to pick a control to be added here, it isn't going to automatically going to pick up on the theme. So for that reason, I created this screen that's got most, if not all, the controls. Well, I know for a fact it doesn't have every single control, but once you want to use a control, you make sure that you use the variables, the theming variables here. So for example, here is a rectangle, and you see it uses the global theme dot primary dark, and you can see the different colors here. Okay, so that's what generally I do as a strategy is I define I have a copy of each control here that I set it to look at the global theming, and then I'll simply copy the controls from this screen. Okay, so that's why I called it copy controls from here. Now, there are a few things I actually want to improve on this Jumpstart kit that I have here. I do put a video that points to a YouTube, as you see up here, a YouTube video that demonstrates how to use this template. I think it's about a 45-minute video. It goes through all the features and everything that you can do with the template, and also how to customize it for your purposes. Okay, now there are just a few things in here that I think would be great to improve on this, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on the on the comments here to see if there are any suggestions or anything that perhaps you guys would like to see added to this template, or see how I would add it to this template. So feel free to let me know of any particular feature that you have in mind. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to change about this, and I just haven't gotten around to doing it. You notice how each menu item here has a bar on the side? I actually want that to only appear for the screen that we're currently on. Okay, so that is something that I'd like to improve and change. So I'm going to show you how I would do that. Now, over here in the tree view pane, if you go over to components, what you're going to notice is all the controls are right here, and you can modify those. So this particular, the Jumpstart kit, it has no external dependencies, which I like the idea of. For example, I have no references to any data sources. Okay, so if I go over here to data, okay, you'll notice I just have 3 collections. Okay, you see here in this gallery, I'm keeping track of, it looks like just screen names and date timestamps. Well, this template actually keeps track of what the users are doing inside the application with date and timestamps and the screen name, the date and time which they did it, the application name, the version number, and all that good information. So you've got some intelligence or some information that you could analyze whenever you're asked how much your application has been tested, and you're asking that the application be moved out to production, and you have to go in front. I've worked at places where you have to go in front of a council, and it was a hospital here in Central Florida, and it was a deployment meeting that happened every week. So if you wanted something deployed that week or the following week, you'd have to go in front of this council and tell them about the app, what changes are being made in production. Is it a new app? Is it an update? All that type of stuff. But one of the questions they would ask you every time is, how long has this been tested? How much has it been tested? Well, I can tell you right now, this is a collection that I create in App on Start, and it's there for the purpose of you creating a SharePoint list or a database table called screen use, then getting rid of the collection, which is created by clear collect or collect. So I take that one line of code out, and then it writes everything to a database. And I can tell you how many users are using the application within a time span. I could tell how much the app has been tested by any particular user or as a whole, you know. Joseph says, when building the template out, would you recommend having different screen for modern controls? I would. I really would. Because, I mean, just for the sole purpose, if you look at this and go into that copy controls from here, now these are all of the classic controls, and you see that I'm running out of space. So if you know that you want to add a modern control, we could have a screen like this and only have the modern controls there that pick up on the the global variables that has the theming information. Now you might think to yourself, well, the modern controls that there's already a theming feature within Power Apps, which I do like. It is better than the classic theming. So if I go in here and look at this theme here, this is the classic theming. And if you're going to pick a theme, you might think, oh, I got these different colors to pick from. Well, they're never the exact hexadecimal value, the exact color that you're looking for. So if my company's theme was like a steel blue, chances are it's not the exact steel blue color I was looking for. It would clash and not quite look right. Okay, so touching on that, the modern controls and the modern theming, go into settings. Go into settings with me now, guys. Hopefully you guys have got another screen up and you can sort of follow along. Okay, and I'm going to scroll down here. And this setting does move around a little bit. I think right now it's sitting over here in updates. And in the new tab, we have modern controls and themes. I'm going to zoom in on this. Okay, notice that if you want the modern controls, you're going to get the modern theming. If you want the modern theming, you're going to get the modern controls. Now, my only warning, my own reservation about using this is some of the controls, I would say, this is a phrase I use a lot for the modern controls, which they're not really fully baked just yet. Now, they've been out there for about a year, and there's been a lot of progress. One of my biggest complaints or feedback, if I were to be asked about it, is they don't have all the properties that we've grown used to with the classic controls. And I would concede the modern controls look really nice. They look elegant. They look much nicer and modern than the classic controls. But although they look nice, it's in some cases it's skin deep. you there are some things that you depend on in a lot of ways that you used to the classic controls that you don't have with the modern controls. Hopefully they add some of these other things. I was just working with the modern label control, which actually isn't even called a label control. It's called a text control, if I'm not mistaken. And there is no imperative on select property event like we do have with the classic one. Well, I don't use it all the time, but gee whiz, if I wanted to use it, I probably really need it. Things like that. So I'm going to turn this on. And something else, this new analysis engine, if we ever want to use user-defined function, that needs to be turned on. Okay, so I'm going to turn that on, and you see it's a new feature. Okay, the feature collection access component scope must be disabled. Okay, let's go turn that off. Now, what is that? That is a feature if you're building a component where you can access global values. I never liked that feature because it violates some core object-oriented programming concepts that should be in place when you're building things like components. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. So now I'm going to turn that on. Now let's do a full page refresh. I'm going to hit OK. Let's see what else do we have here. I'm going to go ahead and click close. I'm going to hit save. And now that we turned on modern controls, we're going to get this little opportunity to reapply or apply these modern themes now to our application, and it's fine. It's only going to, or at least my understanding, it's not going to replace any colors with the theme unless you haven't set them. Okay, so a lot of these controls I've already set up the properties the way that I'd like, and because they're set, they should not be overwritten. But I'm going to hit reapply, and hopefully nothing on this screen should change. Now, what I have noticed is when you click on this button, I used to click on it, it would actually like work, and it doesn't work now. I don't know what's going on with that. So I don't like to see this. This is going to keep grabbing my attention. Like, here's a message up here at the top of the screen. So I'm just going to hit the X for now. And I think what I am going to do is I'm going to get out of the application and come back in before I move on. And while we're going to be waiting for Power Apps to do that, might take a minute or two. I'm going to be looking at the comments here. Sabir says, learn many things from you. Thanks. Well, thank you. Thanks for being a viewer. I appreciate it. Can we divide the attachment files of the list and upon editing them with multiple attachment controllers? I'm not sure exactly what you mean there. If you could give me more information on that, I could respond to that. I'm trying to figure that out. The attachment files of the list. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. If you could rephrase that or give me more information, that would be great. And Joseph says modern controls are still buggy. Yeah. There's been several things that have happened that students bring to me, and they're like, "Hey, I can't get this thing to work." And I look at it, I'm like, "Oh, that's a modern control." And they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this." And I said, "You mind if I do a little test?" I'm bringing over the classic controller. It works perfectly in some cases. And what comes to mind is when we were working with, it was either a drop down and or a combo box. Yeah. Yeah, Jad, you couldn't get the link before the start of the session. I do apologize about that. Guys, if you're an accelerator student, you are always welcome to come on the live streams. Now, because of how I set this up as a stream to many, multiple sources through my software, it was set up with a live stream and also a passphrase or something. And to be honest, I set it up wrong. And I'm like, well, what's this? And I clicked on it, and then, yeah, so sorry about that. Joseph says, I love the modern table control, but doesn't always refresh like it should when filtering on search text. Yeah, I really do like it. When it was first released, you know what? Let's go to a blank screen here within the Jumpstart Kit. Let's duplicate the blank screen. But before I do that, there's one or two things I actually do need to do. And I'm going to copy this email address. And if you deploy it into a new tenant, which is true for me, I have my main business tenant, and I also have a tenant that I have for some development and also running the accelerator program out of. But if you look, well, that's my old email address. I'm going to paste in this new email address. I'm going to save, and I'm going to rerun this. I'm going to run on start. And now you'll see I've got even more menu items. So I've got an area for application administration, and there's a developer screen that's got some stuff in here. Okay. So that's good. Yeah, so what I wanted to do, I'm going to go to the blank screen here, and now I've got some debugging features that are available to me now that I put my right email address in there. One of the features that I have in the Jumpstart Kit is that you've got at least 3, hold on a second, actually 4 security groups built into it. And it's very lightweight, has no external dependencies. It doesn't try to reach out to Azure AD, which is now Intra. It doesn't do any of that. What it does is it uses a collection. Okay, this is interesting. So now that I updated the settings, I closed out and came back. Those three collections that were here in data are no longer here. And I think what they've done is they've moved it to variables, which is actually a good thing. In my mind, a collection is a variable. It's not really a data source like a database. Okay, so here they are. We got our themes, we got our navigational items, and then we have screen use. And if we go into the tree view, go into the app on start, and scroll down here, I've got lots of what I like to think is great documentation. I've got a global variable, which are settings for the app. So we've got the name of the app, application template. So this should be called Jumpstart Kit V1. And it is using the Power Apps purple theme. Okay. And let's make sure, I always try to update the version number with the last time it was edited. So the month is not 31. The month is August and 31st. Very good. I've got a list of developer emails. Now you notice up here where I typed in my email address, that is in a global. And then that is concatenated with any other email addresses that you have. Let's say you're working with another developer in your Canvas app. Well, you want to add them there. Any admin email. So this would be application administrators. So people that might want to go in and access and manage any values, let's say for drop-down list used throughout your application, or somebody who might be able to set up new users within your app, grant or deny them access, all contained within the app. And you can make the choice when using a tip like this. If you want to, it's just set up to be like a simple security group system. And if you're writing an enterprise application, when I say enterprise, I'm talking about large organizations, you probably wouldn't want to use this. You probably want to tie into Active Directory or Intra to maybe create security groups there and then tie into those. But I can't make the assumption that people are using those things. So I've got like a basic system in place here, which is typically great even if you're in an enterprise and you're doing a proof of concept or you're just starting out. Okay. All right, looking back at the comments, let's see here. So now that I had that in, I remember what I was about to do. So I've got a screen here called blank screen, and I'm going to duplicate it. Okay. And I'm going to move this down towards the other copy controls from here. And move it down one more. I'm going to rename this copy controls from here. I'm going to say copy controls. I'm going to say classic. And I'm actually going to prefix this screen with dev. And this is something that I've done in the new template, which I might show later in this live stream. And so any type of dev screen isn't going to be visited by any users except you or any other developers on your team. And I like to organize, categorize the screens based on the first few screens would be meant for your typical user, just a regular user coming into the app and just using the app. And then I have templated screens. So we've got a new screen here. So if you want something like a gallery with some headers at the top, you could copy this screen And you've got some editing controls off to the side. Now, if you only want a gallery in the headers, you can just copy this and just rip out all these controls here. Okay, so that's a templated screen. Now, you're probably used to templated screens by clicking on New Screen and seeing all these templates. So these are the ones that Microsoft provides. I like to have my own templates that I can copy from that already has a bunch of cool stuff in there that I like to see in all my screens. So if I go to blank screen, this is a screen that, you know, has everything that I'd want to have in there on a new screen, but really nothing else in the middle. And I do have a screen that's got tabs. I would like to update and modernize this particular screen or make a copy and use the new modern tab control. That would be nice. Here's application admin screen. Probably want to shorten this a bit and call this the app admin. I think that would be good. And for this developer screen, I might call this dev. Dashboard screen, because we could have several screens for the developer, but this would be like a dashboard. So if I had many screens, because you see that I already have buttons here that allow me to go off to the copy controls. Now, if you ever, you'll notice that all my menu items disappeared. And that is expected, and I can give you an explanation of why that just happened. And that is because I'm renaming screens that are referenced in the app on start. And if you go into app on start and change anything there, you really need to go over here and rerun the app on start. And even if you don't go over there to the app on start and change anything, the fact that you rename screens that are referenced there, well, it changed for you. So again, you have to run that app on start. Okay, so we do have a blank screen here. Let's go over here to copy the classic copy controls screen. I'm going to copy that, go over to this, and instead of classic, I will say modern. There we go. And something else you might notice is it says blank screen at the top. Now, you just saw me rename it. Well, again, that is something to be expected. If I go back, or if I go to a different screen and then come back, you'll see that it will be updated there. Okay. Now, what was just mentioned by somebody in the comments is the new table control. So let's type in table. Now, we've had this classic table control for years, and it had this little preview thing beside it for years. And I think it wasn't until we got the modern one until they took that little preview out of there. Hopefully they fixed it or made it better. It was a control that I never wanted to use it. Sometimes you would add it to just look at data really quick. But the gallery control always seemed like a better choice, you know. But this new table control is pretty nice, if I may say so myself. Okay, now I don't have any data sources yet, but I could go up here and I could say COL, screen use. Actually, it doesn't have a COL in it, it's just screen use. And let's see if we can, yeah, we've got some fields here we can add in here. Let's add them all. Okay, so this is what, so somebody mentioned this. I wanted to show this to you guys. Look at this nice little modern table control. This is very cool. Here's all the screen names. We could sort. So the sorting is built in. You know, for me to do that with a gallery, I could do that with a gallery and it would work great, but there would be some manual work involved. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go back over to the comments here. Justin says, I need to learn how to build PCF components. I need a better way to display and interact with tabular data, especially on large sets. Okay. Ross says, sorry, I caught this late. Are you going to mention containers? as this will help with the functionality. Also, would you also start to use formulas for a theme to help quick? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's one of the main reasons I want to go back to the tab screen, because we didn't always have containers. So we had groups, and once they gave us containers, it's just a much better way of doing that. Now it looks like I did start to replace this with containers, so that it is used there. Let me see what I have for tabs. Yeah, this is um, this gallery here just has these buttons here. But yes, yeah. So I will be updating, as you'll be seeing here in this live stream. I'll be updating a lot of things. So I'm going to keep that in mind, Ross. Savage, we have the toolbar control now, still in preview. Yeah, I saw that. So let's go to this modern screen here. Now I can make this smaller. It could still be, and what's sort of nice about this table control, as you can see, it's responsive. So if we don't have so much space, it will sort of shorten things up for us. That's a very nice feature. Yeah. So let's take a look at that. Savage, thanks for bringing that up. Let's go over here and look at, is it toolbar? Somebody called it a command bar. I saw a blog post about a command bar. And I think these are, these things at the top, like even thinking about this thing here at the top. Is this a menu bar? Is it a toolbar? Is it a command bar? Is it a ribbon? These things are called different things. Now, if I expand this and look at this modern control, okay, well, this is driven by a table. So look at that. And these are what seems to be buttons. Okay, so if I were to run this, I could click on the new button. I could click edit. Okay, they've got notify in effect, and this guy is disabled. And then here's info. Yeah, that's a nice new control that has come out relatively recently. Absolutely. What else do we have? Joseph says, fun fact, if you turn off the monitor controls, the classic table shows preview. Really? I did not know that. That's sort of funny. That's very interesting. Now, what are the other modern controls? So maybe you've been using the classic ones for a while, and maybe somebody said, oh, don't mess around with the modern controls yet. Maybe you're not familiar with these. They do have a modern form control. And I think I tried that out once, and I'm like, I wonder if the modern form control will reset on me, which is the primary reason I absolutely hate the form control and hardly ever use it. But it did. It reset on me. So now there's an icon control. Look at that. This control isn't interactive. For an interactive icon, use the button control. Isn't that something? Now, what are they talking about here? Now, it looks like we've got perhaps different icons to choose from than the other ones. That's interesting. Let's click on this again. Let's see what the icon here is set by a string. Yikes. I like the fact that we had enumerated values for the classic icon. So if I set icon here, these are all the other icons. What I do is I just click on the first one, which is 3D printing. And if you look at the icon, look at this, you have icon dot. So you can actually see in code what you have to choose from. I think that's wonderful. Why couldn't they do that with the modern control? I don't know. And what do they mean by interactive? Go over to advanced. And advanced is where you're going to see all the imperative type of properties like on select. Okay, so I've got this new modern icon selected, and look at this. There is no on anything. Look at the classic one. On select. Okay. I don't know why I would use the modern one to be honest, because you might want to use an icon almost like a button. Although they did modify the button so that you could have an icon in it. So it seems like over in Redmond they're switching things up, and they've got perhaps an idea of how things are going to change over the years, and they're slowly introducing us to that. So hopefully over time what we'll realize is that we're not losing anything. It feels like we're losing some stuff, but hopefully they replace it with things that are as good, if not better. But here in this the classic one, we have the on select, and I rely on that for a lot of things. If I hover over this icon, I get a hand, boom, like that. Now if I hover over this one, I don't. Now if you like the hand icon, a lot of times I do use the icon here, but you can use a button that's got hover event properties that you could put. Let me rephrase that. Let me bring over. Well, the regular button now is now the modern control. Let me put that here, and you see we have the on select. But do we have like an on hover? I don't see any type of on hover. If I hover over it, it does darken a little bit. Seems like it does that automatically for us. There is a type, so I could make this a secondary, and you see now it's white. Okay, so it's like giving us features out of the box that we don't have to build ourselves, which is nice. Me personally, I like to have full control over over the behavior of a control. So I don't really care for that. Now, if I bring over the class, I'm going to just type button and see what items I have available to me. Here's the classic button. Now, what you'll notice, the classic ones do look a little bit big, bulky, clunky compared to the modern ones. If I click on this classic one, you'll notice down here, I can change the colors. For example, if I pressed on it momentarily or I hovered over it, I could have different colors. If I disabled it, I can control those colors. Okay, and you notice you got that little hand. So if you want that hand to appear over something, you'd either use an icon, the classic, or the classic button here. And I've seen people add buttons to galleries to have things like that, change the hover and have the hand, and then just set up the colors to be transparent so you actually don't see the button, or you only see the effects that you're trying to go for. All right, very good. Yeah. Yeah, the tab control is very nice. Let's add over the modern tab control if I can get this. If I can get Edge to work with me here. There's tab. Let's do the tab list. Now, I really do like this control. So it is a modern looking tab. What does a modern tab look like? Well, we're used to it over here in Power Apps. You see these two things? They're almost like buttons, but these are tabs. Now, the classic tabs that people have been used to for a few decades, perhaps, with applications, look something like this. That's what I'm used to, and that's what I built here. But over here in the modern list, what I like so much about this, not modern list, modern tab, the tab list control, is that you can go in here and change this to a vertical. I like this. So you could, let's say if you didn't have a menu control and you needed something really quick and you wanted it here on the side, well, you could, make this vertical and you could use that. Now, I've had frustrations trying to work with it. Okay, a lot of these modern controls, you got to go over here, look at the fields, and if you look at the items up here, we just have a one column collection. And if you don't name off what that column is, it's going to create a column called value. That's the default column if it's not specifically named. Okay, you might be used to that if you use the distinct function. The distinct function gives you one column table with that value column there. But that's a really nice control, and I'm looking forward to that becoming more baked, more polished. Okay. Yeah, we got lots of good comments here. Um, you can add an icon to the button. Yeah, so if we go in here to the button, here's the icon. We can put a little airplane in there. Say, okay, let's go into airplane mode, and we could say icon before, after, all that type of stuff. Now, do we have that with the classic one? Doesn't look like it, but you know what you could do? Control period, plane. Well, how about that? Does that work? Yes, it does. Now I might want to use a lighter color. Let's use something, yeah, that looks, well, it doesn't look great, but you see we do have an airplane there. Also, you can use an ASCII code character in here. You could do that. So there are ASCII codes for icons. Okay. So you could get something that looks like that. All right. What else? What else do we have going on here? Uh, Bargav, hopefully I pronounced your name properly, said used to be called ribbon. Now it's called command bar in MDA. Now MDA stands for modern development. I don't know. They're calling it toolbar for Canvas apps. Yeah. Chad says the new table is interesting if we have ways to control font, hover, background. I agree with you 100%, Jad. Yeah, Mark says in the modern toolbar, you need to type the name of the icon to use it. Yeah, I find that very odd to have string literals. I'd rather have enumerated values, to be honest. But that's what we have to work with. If you don't like it, you could create your own toolbar control. And to be honest, I think I could create a better toolbar control maybe in like an hour. I don't mean to sound like a narcissist or anything. I just, they have a modern header. Okay, so let's bring that over. Now, do you like this better? You might like the blue. I like the blue color better than my purple there. But it's simple. But let's look at the features. There's this little spot for an icon. What if I've got an icon that's this big? Will that look right there? Probably not. And it looks like it's displaying the screen name. Well, in my applications, I like to have the name of the application. I could write 50 apps for an organization, and it would all be the same logo for that company. I would want them to know what application they're in. And then perhaps right below that, then have the screen name. And, there is, okay, I didn't know it did that. So you click on it, could bring up this other information. So anyway, I like to have a back button on every screen, and I like the users to be aware of the back button and get used to the back button. And have some good consistency between screens. So, because this is a modern control screen, I'm going to try to bring one of each of these over here. And I don't, okay, that tab needs to be there. Now, if I was doing this and I wanted modern controls in my Jumpstart kit, you see how it's bringing in this blue color? What should I do? Because that clashes with our colors, right? Well, the great thing about the new modern theming system is we can go in here and create our own theme. That's what's so great about the modern theming over the classic one. You can create your own. And what I would really like to have is an eyedropper here and click on something perhaps on the screen. Now, something that is nice, you'll see like a preview of what your controls are going to look like down here. There is something that you can do that wouldn't be a bad idea for a theme if you have to pick a theme, which is there are 3 colors that will go with any theme, and that's typically white, black, and shades of gray. So if you got the same 3 values for RGB, you do have white, black, or shades of gray. So 255 across the board here will give us Fs, which is the highest value for hexadecimal. And my toddler's trying to break down my door. It's always fun. So if you bring these to the highest value, it's going to be pure white, absolute white. If there's zeros across the board here, it will be black. And anything between will be shades of gray. Okay, now what is our hexadecimal value for this purple? Well, let's go back over to copy classic controls. Used to be called copy controls from here. And I want to get that primary dark color, which is right here. I'm going to double click on that and hit Control C. Now I'm not going to get the pound sign. Okay, I'm going to go over here. And this is how I'd recommend integrating this new cool theming system with our dynamic theming system within the Jumpstart kit. So what I'm going to say here is my purple. And I might leave these defaults alone. I'm going to double click on the hex and just type that in. Now, this doesn't look right. Now, what happens if I hit a pound sign? No, it's not going to allow me to do that. Let's open this up. And this looks great. So something isn't quite right here. That's interesting. Okay. Instead of clicking on that, let's go to where this theme is definitely defined at is our app on start. And it's near the bottom. So I'm going to go here and go look for the purple one. Yeah, Power Apps purple. There it is. It's definitely different. Okay, very good. That makes me feel better. Okay, add a theme. Paste it there. There we go. Now look at this purple color here. This is a big thumbs down from me. This is not the purple color of the hexadecimal value. You guys notice that? This is like sort of faded. So I might turn up the vibrancy a little bit. That really doesn't seem to have, didn't really change the color down here. And you turn up the torsion. I don't know that I care for that either. Why can it not use the color I gave it as the color used here? It's frustrating. Another frustrating thing here is that, let me put in my purple theme. The other frustrating thing is you might have a secondary color. Okay, now for now, I gave it the exact hexadecimal I want. I'm going to click create. At least we know that it's not going to clash. Okay, and let's go back over here to the modern screen. You see how it's sort of like a faded version of that. Now let me show you how you can fix this. Do you notice how this control, I was trying to get it, and you see how it like snaps almost perfect? Well, let me move these things out of the way here because it's interfering with what I'm trying to show. Notice this control here as I put up into a corner. Maybe I don't want it to be right up against the edge of the screen. See how it sort of snaps in place? Well, in the Jumpstart kit, I've got this little toggle here. If I hold down Alt, I can click on it, and I've got these little rectangles that serve as guides. Let me show you what this is. Look at that. It's a rectangle, and it's a 20 by 20 square. So if you want to have like a little gutter defined around your screen, that's what I recommend. And a lot of times I drop them in containers if I want, you know, things to be spaced out exactly the same. It's nice. Something else I don't like about the modern controls is what if I want to put a background color? Now, in classic controls, that's called fill. Do we have a fill property? We do not. Why is that? If I wanted a background color, let's say that's slightly gray or something, am I going to have to use a rectangular or a container? Containers within containers, all that jazz? Yeah, I don't really care for that very much. Okay, so let's say if I wanted this purple to be this purple, well, we do have color palette. Now, you don't want to click on this. This is only going to give us the ones that have been defined. In fact, if I hover over this, is it going to give me the names of these? So we've got two purple ones. If I go over here, there's teams and then there's my purple. Maybe it's considering that. Now, if I click on that, does it change it? It did. If I click on this one, that clashes too. So it's not even showing me the custom theme that I picked. Ugh. Ugh is what I have to say about that. All right. So I don't want to try to give it some hexadecimal value. What I am going to do is I'm going to click on this word color palette. Okay. And I'm going to say GBL theme dot primary dark. Okay. Now, if you look at this, there is my purple color. Now, is it gonna use it? Reset the property to its default value. I think it just took it out. So let me try this again. Global theme. Now, I'm actually used to this working. And a lot of times I have been using the modern button. And that really is exactly what I do. I go in here and I go find the color palette and I paste that in there. And it typically changes it. So I'm a little disappointed in that. It's not very straightforward, you know? So anyway, I'm going to go back to the comments here, make sure I'm caught up. Jad says, modern controls are in line with low-code idea of Power Apps, streamlined and simple. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Justin says, I built a button component that let you choose the primary and secondary styling. I like that, with or without the icon. Very, very nice. You know, going back to what Jad was saying there, you know, trying to stay in line with the low code, no code, just trying to help you whip something up quickly with not a lot of technical knowledge. I like that being there. If I'm advanced or if I'm really good at what I do, allow me to override that and let me do some cool advanced stuff, you know. With traditional software development, let's say with .NET and C#, you get a lot of that. In fact, there's not so much of that where so much is done for you, but it's in stark contrast to this, where in order to create a screen, it just seems like you got to create like 50 files. Like you might need a controller and a view and gee whiz, there's all kinds of stuff to define. You need to define a business class that represents the object, the entity that you're trying to change. And there's all kinds of stuff that I won't go into. I think I've got a little bit of PTSD on that. Before I picked up Power Apps, I was being asked to pick up Angular, and I think Angular is an awesome framework, but it's front end, and I don't really care for front end technology very much. I won't say I grew up, but I was a developer during the years where people can't decide on what browsers they want to use, and the browser wars and things rendered differently in all the different browsers, and it was like, this is crazy. You know, um, yeah, lots of frustrations over the years. Okay, what else do we have here? Joseph says, I love using tab list control as an action option list. Shrink it down to 3 ellipses or ellipses. Okay, so we've got these 3 items here, and if you size it down, let's see what he's talking about here. We run this. Look at that. We got a little menu that can pop up just by clicking on that. That is nice. I do like that. Oh, MDA is short for model driven app. I should have known that. Justin says, can you try text icon add? Oh, that's an interesting idea here. Okay, for the modern icon, see up here we've got, well, up here we've got what 3D printing. Let's do something like that. And for this icon, instead of add, let's do text. That does not look like an airplane. But that was a cool little exercise. What happened if we were to say checked or yeah, check or check badge? No. Yeah, see, it's not going to really work. Justin says it's odd that the color you choose in the modern theme isn't the primary color. Yeah, that's. He says it's a darker tone. It looks like it's a faded tone of it, which I wouldn't want as my primary. Um, yeah, just a little odd and a little annoying. Yeah, there should be modes for the editor like simple and advanced. Developer can pick their experience. I agree. Something else that I miss on these modern controls is what if I want a border color around this? Now, my wife, who is a graphic artist and great with styling and marketing and all that cool stuff, she says, Darren, you shouldn't be doing a lot of borders and so I recognize it's probably more of a old school type of design, having borders around everything. In fact, if you go over to my new screen, I think I try to make the borders not so pronounced, but it does seem like the newer style is to go like minimalistic, very little border lines, more curves like rounded corners and such. I think I'm going to get rid of that. That's bothering me. Um, but why not give me the choice? You know, when I bring over a label, or now it's called the modern labels, just called text. A lot of times I use text controls for testing. And if I'm using it for testing, I want them to stand out so I know that either I need to remove it in a little bit or I need to set it up to dynamically hide itself because I don't want users to see it. But I like to put borders on things sometimes. And I don't see any. Oh, look at that. They added it. Maybe they heard me complain. You know what? I'm happy. I'm happy that I'm wrong today because yesterday I was right. Maybe. I'm getting old, guys. I don't know sometimes if it's my memory or what. But what about a fill? Do we have a fill now? We got font color, font weight. So all the styling and theming properties should be here. Now, when you see font for the modern controls, well, in the classic controls that was called color, and we've never in PowerOS we've never really had a background color like we did sometimes in traditional software development. I know in years past I'm used to things being called background color, foreground color, that type of thing. And web colors, of course, is just color. But why can't I change the background color or the fill? And you see that there is no fill. and I don't see any type of background color. So I'm still waiting for that one. And on some of these controls, you get like a thumbs up and a thumbs down. You could provide them feedback. And I think they're only doing that for the newer ones. Or maybe they check my account and know that they don't want to hear from me. I don't know. Okay. Well, let's make some progress on this, guys. So as we style our modern controls, we will do that here on this screen from now on. Okay. Now, something I do like that I just saw here, look at that. See this purple? That purple is right on. I'm almost wondering if I were to close out and come back, if it would refresh that color and actually render it properly. That would be nice. Okay, here we are again, and let's go to copy modern controls. No cigar, whatever that means. Means that we did not win. Okay. Okay. Now, one of the main things I wanted to do was fix the menu. So let's go over here to nav menu, and I want to open this up, and there's a gallery that has got a rectangle, which is on the side. And there it is, rec bar. Now, what's funny about using a prefix like rec is I started using RET for a rectangle because REC can sometimes be confused with a record, short for record. So I try to use that instead. Now, on the visible, let's go look at the visible for a moment. And it's just set to true. So it makes sense why all these are visible. If you look at our menu here, and when we expand this, this is something that you have to do with Canvas apps. Again, I wish there's, this is something that hopefully that we could, I wish I could pin controls at the top of the Z order. Because if you ever add controls over to a screen, you always got to make sure one or two things are always at the top, like a menu. And also, your spinner. You always want the spinner on top as well, just in case the spinner needs to pop up. Okay. Cajun says, small borders are excellent. I agree. Thank you. Thank you for seeing it my way. All right. So I wanted to show you this. If I were to go home, you see I've got a, excuse me, guys. I've got a dotted line around my menu item. It only shows on the one that has been selected. So let's go over here and let's do the same thing. We'll say we've got a rectangle that's dotted and its visible is set up if the active screen equals screen to go to. Okay, this is good. Yeah, I'm gonna add that to this bar. Okay, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna go back here. And now that bar only displays for the screen that I'm on. Okay, so that's an improvement. I do like that. D. Sonor says, any template on menu display driven by user login. See, a user has a different access as the approver. Thinks in advance. That feature is actually built into this Jumpstart kit. And let me show you what I'm talking about. And I'm going to sort of describe what I know that you're talking about. At least I think I know what you're talking about. Okay, so let's say we might have security groups. Okay, so look at this. We got home screen and new screen. And new screen is some data listing here, and we're displaying the values of this selected record. So this screen and the home screen, I want every user to see. In fact, this one down here, this might be a link to the company website or the company intranet site. So I want every user to see those three. But the app admin screen and the developer screen are only screens that I want for those roles to access. So only if you're an app admin would you see that and be able to click on it. And same thing for developer in that role. Hopefully, D. Sonor, that's exactly what you're talking about. Let's go over to the app on start. And let's add this up. Sometimes when I talk a lot, for some reason I get some congestion down here, which is annoying. I'm going to scroll down to my menu items. And I set this up, I thought was a clever way of doing this for Power Apps. Okay, so these are all the themes that I have defined. And these themes would be better defined in app formulas now that we have that. Let's go, I'm going to go do a search for home. There we go. So we have a collection called Call Nav Items. Now I want to direct your attention to, well, let's just talk about these properties in general. The menu label. So whatever the text that you want to have displayed for the menu. Let me see if I can open this up a little bit here. You see it says home screen. And in some cases, maybe I don't want the word screen there in the menu. But the screen name, it's a recommended best practice set by Microsoft to actually have the name screen in the name of the screen over here. But in a menu system, you might say, well, that's redundant. Of course, every item on this menu is a screen, so why do we have to say screen all the time? So you might opt to take the word screen out of everything. See, like app admin, I might actually want to say app administration. Don't want to abbreviate it too much, I guess. Here's the developer screen. Yeah. Developer area, developer dashboard. So just because you have a name, now we could have very easily referenced this screen and say .name to get it, but it goes to show you might actually want to have a different moniker or a different string displayed for that string that is different than the screen name, okay? And this menu does have the capability of displaying icons. You can get much better looking icons by using SVG files or images, you know, icons that are JPEGs, PNGs, SVGs, and in that case, you'll want to use the image. Okay, you see here I've got global menu settings. Instead of icons, you'd say images, and then it would use the image put here. Now, why do I say sample image? Because sample image, if you look over in multimedia, now I do have images over here that I could use, but I just wanted something there as a placeholder that would match the type of value for that field. Okay, so in those cases, I might use something like that. Here's the icon used. Show for this role. This is the security thing that I was getting at. Now let's scroll down and look how these things differ. Okay, so the first two screens can be accessed by just regular users. Scroll down here. Look, here's a global variable called GBL is admin. Okay, only app admins can get in there. And that's the exact name of the global variable that would have a true value if they were. GBL is app developer. Now, what about the website? Look at this. We've got just plain old user. Now, how does that come into play when we actually render the menu? So we're displaying menu items for just the role or roles. They could be in multiple roles that they're in. Almost everything that's the guts of this application is currently in the app on start. So if we go in here, we'll notice that we've got these globals. And let me point out the ones that are pertinent to this feature. Okay, there is a global variable called GBL user roles. And as we look and find out, okay, according to this user's email address, are they inside this developer emails property of this global? If they are, then they are an app developer. And we do the similar thing for, here's where we append it to this. So as we go through with, if this is run and I'm the user, this thing will be appended over and over again, because as the app developer, I'm going to be able to access all the other screens like app admin, any type of tester roles. Okay. Yeah, if you're a tester, you're going to be able to see this little thing here at the top that's really faint. You click on it, it's going to light up and allow you to show things. One time I was doing an app for a group of people, and one of the main guy that I worked with that was telling me all the requirements, I made him a tester, and he loved this. He said he felt like he was like Superman, or he had superpowers, which I found sort of funny. So he really loved that. But as this code runs, this variable starts, look at this. See, the application knows by this global variable, everybody's a user. Now, if you wanted to control that so that only people from a certain department can access the app, you could put some logic in there for that. Here's a GBL is app developer. I'm an app admin and I'm a tester. Okay, but how does that translate to the menu? Well, let's go take a look at the menu component. Well, this is it. And let's look at the gallery that displays these menu items here. Let's open up the query. And let's look at this. So this is the name of our component. If I scroll up here, it says comp side nav menu. This is the name of our class, of our component here. And we created a property called menu items, and it's of type table. Now each of these menu items has a visible property. So just in case as a developer, you're like, oh, here's a menu item, but that screen is causing people problems, I don't want anybody to see it. You can just go in there and set that to false, and then nobody'd see that menu item, or you could do it dynamically. Okay. So if we were to go over to the app on start, where those menu items are constructed, there's a little visible property. And you can set that to true or false, or that could be based on a variable. Okay. So it checks that. But it also says show for this role. Well, the show for this role is again another property of the items and the menu items. Now we're just looking at that in the app on start for all the menu items. It had a visible, it had a show for this role. So we're seeing if, let's say there was a GBL is dev, is developer or something like that, and I check that to see if that is in the groups that the user is in. And that is how it knows whether to display a menu item for that user given the groups that they are in. Okay. Now, if you want to know more about that, if you want to hear me talk more about that, I have a whole playlist on my channel. It was one of my first few playlists, one of my original series where I built out a work order system for a garage, a service center garage. And we had a menu. We used the Jumpstart kit. And I went over that. It's in the playlist if you were to check that out. And if you want a visual cue, it used a red theme. So if you see a series of videos with a bunch of red all over the screen, that's it. And it should say something like Garage Management app. And I think it's the third or fourth video in that series where I actually talk all about that. Okay. I'm going to turn off the debugging thing there. All right, so I'm going to go back to the comments because that's why I was talking about all the roles there. Justin says, I think fill was removed as a part of minimizing options for new devs to reduce complexity. In classic controls, you had fill, hover, fill. Yeah. Yeah. That's sort of true. Okay, so what are the other things that really should be changed for this? Something that I did notice, I was helping somebody with their app. They were using my Jumpstart kit, and I noticed the screen header, this little label here, was using this if they try to change the text. So let me show you. Here's a screen use screen, which is a developer screen. And the name of the screen is screen use screen. And you see that it's up here. Okay. Now, do you see down here or over here on the right side, it says bar text, and it just says text. I'm going to say this is my favorite screen. So you would change that thinking it would change it, and it doesn't. So that's a bug. That was an unfinished feature, and that's a simple one to fix. So I'm going to click on the component here, and you see I've got bar text, and the default is that. Now I want to put app.activescreen.name. That should be the default. But that label should be looking at that property. So it should be comp screen header dot bar text. Okay. And I think the reason why I put a string there, you see this, if the length of the app is different, or if it's blank, then we display something here. Okay. This actually needs to be changed up a little bit. If that's blank, we should be checking this. If is different than that, then I do want the bar text. Otherwise, I'll use the screen name. Now, out of all that, if it's still blank, let's use a little function. Okay, here's a little question for you guys. I want you guys to think about this and try to answer it, at least in your head. If we've got a value, and the value that comes up, it could be like null or nothing or an empty string, and you want to provide a value, if that's true, what function do we use? We use col, C-O-A-L, coalesce. Okay, so we'll take that value, and if it's blank, we'll say screen name here. And I'll hit format text, so it formats it all for me, and let's see if that works. And it does say screen name here, so it is working, because when you're over here in the components, you're not on any screen, so the app.activescreen.name isn't going to return anything. Okay, and look at that. It says, this is my favorite screen. All right, I'm going to reset this to app.activescreen.name. Save it. All right, so there is a second bug fixed. Yeah, I think I'm caught up on the comments, and I'm going to be looking, keeping my eye on the comments. So, what other features would you guys like to see added here? One of the things I'd like to do here is set up the loading screen to be the start screen for this application, because I think that we all should be moving as much, if not all, code from the app on start over to app formulas. Now keep in mind, in app formulas, you can't put any imperative code there, only declarative. So you have to put any imperative code that you normally have an app on start and put it over here in some type of a loading screen. Now, I don't know if Microsoft is going to take away app on start. I just got a hunch that they might take it away from us. And even if they don't, well, I still have got everything over here in the loading screen, and everything works just fine, whether they take it away or not. All right. So what I want to do, we do have a new property, and this is the sort of like the first hint we got that they might be taking away or heavily modifying app on start, is that we've got a property on the app object called start screen. What do we have in start screen? Look at this. This is declarative code, not imperative. Notice that it's not on start, it's just start screen. Whatever we put here should always evaluate or come down to a name of a screen, a reference to a screen. Okay, so I've got code here set up for deep linking if you want to do that. But I'm not doing any deep linking yet. I want to change the home screen to loading screen. Okay, that means no matter what, it's going to come to this screen. And we could have some code that we might want to run before they actually end up on the home screen. We could put that in here. We could put it in the onVisible property. Okay. Now, something I typically put on every single screen's onVisible is I got 3 lines of code. So I've got a global that sets up my spinner, turns it on, and it might actually write to a database table. Now, in this case, it's just a collection, but eventually you want to put that into a table if you want to use that feature. And then I turn the spinner off. So if you have some database operations that need to happen before things are actually displayed on the screen, this is perfect. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll hit Control A, Control C, because I want to know if the user hit the screen, which now should be the first screen they come up on. And maybe I want to know if I put all my initialization code in on the loading screen, how long it takes for that to have happen before we hit that home screen. We can do perform a difference between those two date timestamps and find out how long that was. Okay. And you see here, all this is dynamic. So it's grabbing the application name, and the title. I'm grabbing the screen name dash and the date timestamp. There's the screen name in a field all by itself. There's the app version, the user's email. I always like to see emails all in lowercase. I don't know why anybody uses uppercases in email addresses, but sometimes you might get unexpected results if you're looking for a string within a string or comparing 2 screens. Now, they could actually be the same email address, but because somebody typed in a character, let's say the first letter of their first name in their email address is capitalized, you try to compare those 2 emails that might come up as not the same when really they logically are. So always deal with and work with email addresses with that lower function, just for the sake of consistency and avoiding any future bugs. Something that I thought was perhaps a little genius, you know, uh, was this session string. So whenever they come into the app, in the app on start right now, there is a session string, which is a date and time stamp that is set once. So let's say a user, they're in your app all day long. And let's say they had a bug that happened after they'd been in the app for an hour, or going from screen to screen, like a dozen different screen jumps, and they have an issue. Now, within this screen use database table, once you set that up, you can actually separate their different sessions. So if you got 100 different records for each screen hit they do, the next 100 would be separated by the value in the session string. Now, where is this variable set? Well, right now it is the app on start. And let's do a search for session string. You can see that I use now. And we got the month, day, year, hour, minute, second. And the three F's represent the milliseconds. And we have the AM, PM. So it's not military time. And then we use that right here. Now, if you finally create a database table called screen use, what you want to do is comment out this clear collect or replace it with a patch, because this is the one line of code that actually creates the collection. And if you try to pull in a database table called screen use, it's going to create a new data source called screen use _1 to not mess with your collection there. So just FYI on that. And it's not just for screen use. You could put all kinds of things in here. So in this case, it's like, hey, this is the app on start. Okay, now when I go into a screen, we've got this information that says, hey, this is the screen on visible. Well, this is a logging system. You could put this patch inside of a button right before you try to do a database operation, maybe right before and right after, so you could see how long that database operation took and have a log of that. So you could use this for a lot of different reasons. This is one of the features that you're like, yeah, whatever. But if you had it in there, there's going to be someday, a week, a month, a year. It may never happen, but it does come up more than you might think. A manager or a director or an executive or somebody in a meeting. It's like, do we know who uses it? Darren, who uses the app? Well, Darren should know. He's the developer, and as if you got like a little clicker and following looking at everybody's screen. Oh, they're using it. Click. That's not what's going on. So this gives you that data, and can be very useful sometimes. Justin says, what about doing something similar on the hidden property of a screen? So when the user left the screen and would provide some type of telemetry. I didn't know if I was going to pronounce that word right or not. That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. I feel like the screen on hidden just doesn't get the amount of love that the screen on visible does, right? So yeah, you get additional information there on when they left it. A lot of times I'll use the on hidden for cleaning up things. Let's say the user was on a screen and was doing something, so the state of the controls was in a place, or a certain record was brought up and displayed on the screen. Well, if you go to a different screen and come back, a lot of times those values are still sitting there, and they're like, what? That thing is still up. I didn't save it or anything, So you might want to use the on hidden for cleanup. And then some people use the on visible for that as well. But in my mind, that's what an on hidden is for. But that's not a bad idea, to collect all the information that you can. Now, if you're hitting the database every single time and you get any complaints about the speed of your app, I mean, here we're hitting it. Sometimes it's like, I don't even care. Like this doesn't have to be between the spinner being turned on and off because we're just updating the database with the fact that they came to the screen with all this information. What's useful to have between these two things perhaps is data that needs to be initialized, queried, brought back from the database in order for the screen to be set up right. Now, in the case of updating screen use, that's not really the case. So sometimes in a lot of my apps, I'll just move this outside, like at the bottom, and then the users may not even notice any type of time. Like right now, if we came to a screen and, sometimes a database transaction in Power Apps might actually take like a half a second, sometimes 1 to 3 seconds. Click on that. You notice. Let me see if I can get it to come up here. See, the thing is I don't have the database table set up yet. So it's modifying that collection as an in-memory variable. So you're not going to see that spinner come up. But if it was database, you'll see at least like a fourth or a fifth of a second of the spinner moving around. So if you did the same thing in onHidden, you'd probably be adding to that. But again, you wouldn't have to turn this spinner on and off. Now the user might see some champagne bubbles go across the top of the screen, Something that is commonly changed in the Jumpstart kit is in the header. A lot of people do not like the font that I picked. And you could easily go into components on the app header and change it here. Probably a better option would be, let's go ahead and do that. Let's add in a place so a dev user could change the font very easily here. Okay, I just want to make sure I don't already have that, and I do not. I'm going to create a new property, and I want to call this heading font. The font name used for the application name. It's going to be input type. It will be text unless we have a font type of value. We got lots of good types here. I wish we had access to all these types for user-defined functions. That would be nice. Yeah. And I don't see that, so I'm going to use text. And I'll click create. And let's look at this. Okay, so I got font dancing script. This is interesting. This is the enumerated value. Data type is text. Now, if we're in a traditional software development platform, font would be an enumerated type. And so this wouldn't be text type. The type would be a font item, Okay, so I'm going to go over to that property we just created and paste that there. And I did not do that right. Okay. Click back on the label, and I'm going to copy that. Here we go. So now that that's set up, go down to the bottom, heading font. So now we could just say, you know what, I don't like that. I want something more traditional like Arial or Times New Roman. So I just changed it, and it did not change it in the header. So we need to make sure it's wired up properly. So over in components, for this label, we want to make sure its font isn't something static like this. It should be saying comp app header dot heading font. Go back over to screens, and now you'll notice, boom, now we have Arial. I like the dancing script because it looks very different than everything else. Um, so everybody has the option of changing that to whatever they like. Yeah. Okay. Making some good changes here. Now, in the app on start, we got lots of globals. And really, what should be done is we should be moving a lot of this stuff over into the app formulas. We really should. Okay. Now, let me show you. So this is Jumpstart Kit version 1. And I figured that we have a lot of, there might be some confusion between this Jumpstart Kit and a new community that I created for Power Apps templates. So this is meant to be a brand new template that we created. And I started off at just $1 a month. And I think we had like 140 that started at $1 a month. So congrats to the people that got in at that low amount because you're locked in to that. But right now it's only $25 a month. And in my opinion, it's very worth it because you get a template that gets updated every single Monday or almost every Monday. I just want to put that in there just in case I need to take a vacation or I'm sick or something. Here's a full feature listing of the template. What exactly are we putting in this template? So I think what I'm going to do is call this Jumpstart Kit version 2, which is developed by a community. So as you guys have ideas for features, I'll be adding those here. Okay. Now down here it says features already have the Ultimate Jumpstart Kit. And this is almost done. Now if you go up here, we got color palette, dynamic theming, light and dark mode. Those are almost done. And it's a big feature for this particular template. I should probably mention, just this weekend, everything's half off. So you can get the Jumpstart Kit for like, I don't know, it's like $47 or something like that. This template, this community is just $25 a month. But again, you get to every Monday night, 4 p.m. EST, and we typically go for 2.5 hours, and we develop this template more and more. And you can, we can start developing types of apps like a checklist inspection app or, an application for real estate agents or whatever. And then why this is so valuable is as we develop apps with this template is if you're a member of this community, you could take that template and start a whole freelancing business based off of that. You could take the template around and sell it for thousands of dollars. And hopefully you're customizing it for that company or whatever, but you don't have to. Okay. So and people are putting giving me lots of feedback on what they'd like to have seen in there. Again, we have a whole community on this. If we go over to Classroom, if you've seen resources and downloads, here's the very latest downloads there. And if we go over here, these are all the sessions. So here's the session from last Monday. This was a really cool one. So let me show you this. We created a screen. We created a screen. Now, this has got like 5 different Power Automate flows. So that's something else I added. This is a solution pack. It's not just a Canvas app. So we've got flows that will create SharePoint sites, SharePoint lists. They'll go grab the full list of all the SharePoint sites so you don't create a new one that's already there. So as you can see, here's a listing of all the SharePoint sites. Once you click on one, here's all the lists for that site. And let's say you wanted it to create 20 SharePoint lists all at once. You could put them all here, click the button, it'll go off and create them all. I just think that's so cool. I don't know why, but you could have a Canvas app that calls these flows. Hey, have you guys ever needed to deploy an app that uses SharePoint into a different tenant, or maybe you need to create a production copy of the database in SharePoint that's separate than the testing or the dev? You could have like a JSON file that holds the schema information. By a click of a button, you just go off and create some new data source with all those tables and the types of, the fields and everything. So I see that as a very valuable feature that's in that template. Now, what does it look like? Well, I believe I actually have it here. I've got to tell Power Apps I want to continue to use it or continue to edit it. And we have a screen that allows users to update their profile information. Now, this is responsive. So if we put it into different formats, it should adjust. If it doesn't, then I will be adjusting the code to make it work just fine. But it does not lock itself to, I want it to be completely responsive. If I go to display, we went with landscape and the default dimensions, but we turned off scale to fit, the aspect ratio lock and all that type of stuff. Okay. In fact, the first thing that we did is we went through every single setting that we could change and sort of optimized it for the purposes of this guy here. Now, let me show you what we did now these were other screens I had been working from, and I'm trying to consolidate it down into a better looking screen. Oh, check this out. We've got version history. So if you update your app, you might want to document that. Hey, this is a bug fix. The screen had bugs. When did it happen? What's the Power Apps version that was used? Now the authoring version is down here, okay? But the Power Apps version is, check this out. If you go over here to share, you get something like this. And I don't want to share it. I just want to get here. Click on the X, go to the versions. So the latest version should be 60. Okay, so that's all. So maybe I saved manually 11 times since then. So you've got that. You can update. It's going to automatically put the email of the developer who's working on it there. So if I hit new, it should clear everything out and try to populate as much as possible. Here's our internal version number, which has the date and timestamp. But you could overwrite that with whatever version numbering system that you have in mind. Long description. And if somebody wants to know, it's like, oh, there's a new version of Darren's app. Well, what changed? That might be really important. What changed, Darren? Why are we doing something new here? The other version worked just fine. Why are you off here messing with that app? And you've got it all documented. They could perhaps come to a screen and click on the different versions and see what happened there. I think that's a good thing. So we built that into this template. Yeah, Cajun said it's pretty cool. Now you're talking about the SharePoint list. Now you said that at 3 minutes ago, so maybe it was the Power Automate features of creating SharePoint stuff. Yeah, I thought it was cool. Chad says, I love version history. Okay. I've had some people ask for that with the Jumpstart kit. And I'm like, you know what? I want to build that in there. So that's what I did. And if you look at it, we have the Power Apps, and I put these little things in here, which is a modern, I think it's called an information button. Yeah, and I was trying to use as many modern controls as possible, as long as they didn't get me too much problem. And if you look at this is all, you can tell by all these nested containers that it's set up for responsive design. Which is a little more complicated, but we did it. I wanted to do it right and in a way that most people would want. So let's see what else. So this is a completely different menu component. And initially, we started creating all these components in a component library, which is what Microsoft recommends. And after every Monday night, I would create a solution package that everybody could download. And so we got the Canvas app, we had those 5 Power Automate flows, and then we had the component library. And what I noticed was when someone deploys it into some new environment, the Canvas app was using a copy of the components that were in the component library, a copy of. So when I deployed it to a new environment and started using that as my dev environment, because I had some weird problem with my old dev environment, when I updated the component library, I noticed that the Canvas app was not asking me to update the copy of the controls with what was updated in the component library. So on a Monday night, I had some of my more advanced students in there. Actually, one of my students is almost a governance expert. And we talked about all of our different options. We really wanted to stick with the component library, but we did not see a way to keep that connection in place between a component library, one that was deployed, and the copy of it in the app. So, and we tried many things. So I opted to do what we did in the original Jumpstart kit, which was just to have all the components in the Canvas app. And to be honest, it makes testing much easier. The only downside is if we wanted to, let's say we had 50 apps that we created with this template, and there was a huge bug fix that maybe we put in the menu, you'd have to go into all 50 apps and update that. So that would be the downside. That's the huge upside to having a component library, or back in my day when I did Windows development, a DLL, dynamic link library, some library with some code components that, in software development, you always want to create and update things in one place and don't repeat yourself. But in some cases with a low code, no code platform like Power Apps, sometimes you have to sort of roll with how the technology is in its current state and just do your best to follow the recommended best practices and the best programming design patterns and practices that you can, all while making sure the thing works. So that's what we did with that. Cajun says SharePoint list automated was cool. I think so. Yeah, that was, and I'm really surprised how quickly it did it. When I have an ERD diagram and I go over to SharePoint and I'm like, okay, I need to create a list, and it like, several steps. Well, on that screen, you hit the button, boom, it's done. And I create these lists and so fast and so much more efficient. But my original idea is if somebody deploys something, they're using SharePoint, they could have a configuration file that has the scheme, and they hit a one button and it just creates everything in that environment. So, and we accomplished that. Okay. So this is the new version. So what we have is a convergence between the original Jumpstart kit and this new version 2 that we're doing with the community. And eventually the new one isn't nice and polished as this one. There's very few issues that I have found with this original Jumpstart kit. In fact, I'm fixing a lot of the things that I've sort of come across, and there haven't been like really big issues, so hasn't really necessitated a change like this. But since we're looking at and thinking about templates, I thought I'd pull this up and show you the changes that we'll make. And this will be published for those of you who have purchased the Jumpstart kit. You guys will get this new version. Now, let me ask you guys a question here. I use my template in an organization, and there was another developer that looked at it and like, wow, this is cool. What's that? What's that? What does that do? And you click on it, and it doesn't do anything. I created that as an icon thinking, hey, this is an icon that expresses this is a page, this is a screen. That's the purpose of that. And I think I didn't want this back button to be related to the home screen. I didn't want people to think, oh, the previous screen is called home screen, and if you click on that, you'll go back. So that's why I have like a rectangle or a pipe there that separates these two icons. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. Do you guys like that icon there? I think what I had, if I'm not mistaken, see it says show image, and it's got image to display. So I could put an image in here. Let's put the logo in there. Does it change it? It does not. So when I originally created this component, that's what my thought was. So let me collapse a lot of these. So we got the screen header. And look at this. We have an image that's sitting on top of that. Let's go look at the visible. And that image is either shown or hid based on that property. And the image right now is like a null value. Okay. And then the ICO heading, that is called list. Well, let me click on the code here. List scroll watch list. Yeah. So let's look at this here for a moment. Show image, and then the icon. If I go over here to visible, it says not. Now I actually do prefer the word not over bang. Not because I like things to be more wordy or verbose, but because it's more obvious that it's there. A bang operator and exclamation point is a little skinny. And, if you're trying to debug something, trying to figure out why something isn't working right, something that is reversed, a Boolean value could very well cause an error or a bug. So I definitely want that to like stick out more. So that's why I do that. It's just a personal preference. So let's see if we can get that thing removed if you as a developer, you don't want to use it. So show image, you see that? Okay, so there we go. We're hiding the icon. The image to display, it says none, but I could use the logo. Okay, there it is. The logo is there. Not that it looks all that great, but I could say sample image. Now, if that's the case, let's go in here and let's try this out. Let's use sample image. And I think what I would want to do is have a padding. See, the icon has a padding of 10 all the way around. Well, for this image, I think that would actually help us out as well. So let's put 10 all the way around. Go back to a screen. Look at that. That looks better. Now we probably wouldn't ever use that. But something that would have more color and more substance to the image could be user photo or image. That's odd. Oh, you know what? In our component, we temporarily set that up. So let's take that out. Hey, look at that. So we got a little bit more flexibility there. Okay. Sample image, I'll change that back and also say show image false. Okay, very good. Now on any screen in here, I think I'd mentioned it before. Whenever any control is added, you always want to make sure the menu is on top. And then go find the spinner and bring it to the top as well. Because I saw this little label that actually displays the version number over here. And if something were to happen, the spinner would come up, this thing would be on top. Okay. Now, as the app is configured, the app start screen, the loading screen is set up to be the first screen here. And what we could do is let's add a timer control. Now we don't want this to be displayed for the user. I think what I am going to do is go find the visible property. And we do have a global called GBL is app developer. Okay, since I'm the app developer, I get to see that. If somebody's not a developer, they will not see it. But I want this thing not to repeat. I only want it to run once, at least right now. Auto start, yes. Auto pause, yes. Auto pause will automatically stop the timer or pause it if they leave the screen. I worked on a really large project one time and trusted in that. And then what I found was it was still running it. So I had to put an if statement around the on timer in to make sure it was on the right screen. So hopefully that bug has been fixed. But that's how it should work. The on start is like somebody comes to the screen, it's automatically going to start that timer up. And what we would do is in the advanced on the on timer end, we could say navigate to the home screen. Yeah. So if we were to run this now, what's the timer set at? A full minute. Okay, so these are milliseconds. So if we said 1,000, that would be 1 second. I think a second would be fine. Should probably give us enough time to pull back some data that we might need. Okay, so this menu is working nicer. Let's look at the tab screen, see if there's anything we want to change here. I run it, we got this tab. You see how it's pulling up different tabular information here. And these should be separate containers. Yeah, I got container 1, 2, and 3. Very good. And there's a screen for the demonstration of the template. Now that's not on the menu. I wanted that to be visible for a developer that was using this template. They could see that. I put it on the home screen because I don't know. What else am I going to put on the home screen, right? I could have like an image there, perhaps. But what I expect for people to do is, oh, yeah, I want it to sort of be in their face so they know this is some instructions, some helpful information. And if they remove it, no big deal, because they'll find it also on this screen. And I should probably add a link to this video, this live stream in here as well. Yeah. Hey, Franco, how you doing? Okay. Yeah, I sort of messed up with this live stream. I was using OBS and then started configuring it. And then I realized too late that I wasn't going to be able to have any guests on it. Otherwise, Franco and you accelerator students, I want to give you an invitation to come on here to talk with me as a panelist, but I screwed up. All right. So, for those of you who have developed their own template like this, maybe you guys followed my instructions, maybe you purchased it, whatever, are there any other features that you'd like to see? Now, something that I've already mentioned, I think somebody hinted at it, is like, hey, we should probably move everything from app on start, much, if not all of it, over to app formulas. And I agree with that. But that in and of itself would take some time, and I think there'd be a lot of, dare I say, some boring things that would need to be done. But I think that we should move something over there to show you how this would be done. Okay, so let's take a look at our variables. If I can find that here. There's our variables. Let's look at our collections. We have the themes. So we've got 10 themes that have been defined. Now, if I click on the chevron, I'm sort of expecting it to open up. Okay. Yeah, very nice. We have the nav items. Both of those could be in there. Now, the screen use right now needs to be imperative until somebody creates that table. So let's move this over into the app formulas, just to sort of show how we would go about doing that. Now, do we see app formulas? We should. And look at this. We have a nice blank slate. If you look at my template version 2 over here, if we go to app formulas, you sort of be blown away by how much stuff we have in here so far. We got a lot of stuff. Links to documentation, all kinds of cool stuff. Okay. I'm going to go to app. Yeah, Franco says, sharing this awesome live stream on my social media is very cool. I appreciate that, Franco. Very cool. Yeah, if you guys think this is helpful stuff, if you comment, you like, you share, you're sort of letting the algorithm know it's helpful content, and I mean, in a way, you're sort of helping me and the channel out. But think about the people that want to find good, helpful content like this. You're helping those people out as well. So thank you for that. Okay. Yeah, let's go over to app on start and let's go down and find all of our themes. The themes would be an excellent place to start to move things around here, because it's just a bunch of static information. Doesn't really need to be an app on start. So I'm going to start at the bottom. Yeah, right here. And I'm going to share with you guys a key combination for something like this. I'm going to hold down Shift and the up arrow. And sometimes it's hard to sort of lasso or select all the code that you want to copy or cut and paste. So that's what I do sometimes. And I'm going to cut it. Look at that. So now it's like, now my stuff isn't going to work. In fact, there's going to be a lot of things that won't work. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste that back just so things aren't broken all over the place. And I'm going to paste, yeah, we still have it on our clipboard. Very good. I'm going to go, because it's going to be a different name. I'm going to click on app. I'm going to go over to formulas. And I'm going to hit enter a few times and paste it here. And things in the app formulas, typically I like to call them FX. themes instead of call themes. Now we do have a problem here, which is you cannot have imperative code in app formulas. And it's a dead giveaway that we don't have a prefix of ON there. That's the only place you can put imperative code. What is clear collect? Clear collect is an imperative function. You can't have that here. So what are we going to do? Yeah, just not use clear collect. Just take that out. All right, so fx themes equals table. Now, instead of using the table function, use a square bracket. And it's trying to help me out. I don't want to be helped out. Now you might think to yourself, well, Darren, you replace the exclamation bang operator with the full word not. It seems like you're doing the exact opposite here. A table is not, it's similar to, but it is not a collection. And a collection is not a table. Now they both have columns and rows. And in a lot of ways, you can treat them the same, but there comes a point where you're trying to use a collection function. You're like, nope, that's not a collection. If you use the table function. So I use square brackets. Okay, this was because we had a clear collect, so we're going to take that out. And this parenthesis was the ending parenthesis for the table function. I'm going to use a square bracket there. Now, at the end of your expression within app formulas, you do need a semicolon. And typically, semicolons are only used for imperative type of code, which app formulas is not. But they need some way to separate the lines of code here within app formulas. So, yeah, you got to use it. And when I've got a bunch of code like this, I like to organize it with these little code comments here and say fx themes is a collection of styling themes we have to choose from. I mean, we could put other information here, like I might indent this over a little bit. This was brought over from app on start. Yeah, let's put a period there. Cajun says, I don't know anything about changing from on start to formulates yet. So this, I've got some weird heart thing that's showing up on top of that, so I can't see the other word. So this is nice or was nice. Okay, very good. Very good to hear. I like that feedback. So it tells me that I'm doing something right here. So anyhow, so here's all of our themes. And they're going to work just like what we had before. So how are we going to start using this instead of what we had before? Well, I'm going to copy that. That is what it's called. Now, if we were to create a new screen and just like do a little test here, let's bring over the table. And for the items, let's use that FX themes. And for the fields, let's see if we got, yeah, look at all this. I wish we had like a check all. That'd be nice. Add. Okay. Now, in a similar way to the classic table control, it can only display text values. It might be able to display Booleans, okay. But I think these are all color values, so they can't be represented with a string. I mean, if it was super smart, it could give me the hexadecimal values. That would be nice, right? But it looks like this collection is working just the way we would expect. Okay, I don't know that we need this screen anymore, so I'm going to delete that. I'm to save. Okay. Now, in order to get this app to start using that new value, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get the name of that global, which is GBL theme. I'm going to copy that. Off here, I'm going to hit F11 to go full screen. I'm going to go find this magnifying glass, which is a project-wide search. And I'm going to do the search and replace. What I'm searching for is that GBL theme. I want to replace it with Windows V. Here's all the things I have on my clipboard. Isn't that nice? That is a feature that you can use in Windows. Windows V, not Control V. It's going to give you all the things that you have on your clipboard before. Okay. Now, will this work? If you're going to make a big change, look, 346 places, this is going to be replaced. You may not want it replaced everywhere, but 346, I'm going to go ahead and do everywhere and then fix where I shouldn't have done it. Okay. If you're going to make a big change, do a manual save, because if I mess something up really bad and it takes more time to roll back or fix it, then it would be just to bring up the old version. You got that restore point you can roll back to. What am I talking about? Well, if I click on share, I'll show you that really quick. Okay. Every time I hit save, I get a new version here. And let's say when we started at 10 a.m. or at 10:02, I wanted to undo all this stuff, and I could delete versions, I can restore a version, and it would create a brand new one. It would create a version 17. That's something that's really nice about Power Apps. It's got version history built into it. I love it. I like it a lot. Picasso. All right, I'm gonna hit replace all. Everybody cross their fingers. Hopefully it doesn't mess everything up. And we'll see how bad this is. Yeah, it's a little bad. All right. Let's go look at this. FX themes, primary light. You know what? I really did mess this up because, yeah, Jad, not the global variable. Yeah, I created the collection. All right. Guys, we just learned an important lesson. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. And as Kurt would say, you learn from the burn. Jad, you should have told me that before I did it. Goes to show you, if you think really, really highly of me, even people like me make mistakes. I could have told you that. All right, so I'm going to go into details. So you guys are going to get a view of how this all works here. I'm going to go here. So here's all the versions. I'm going to hit F5. I'm going to hit refresh there. Come on. And now we've got version 17. And what I'm going to do is, nope, I'm not going to publish that. I'm going to go here and restore this as version 18. So just to explain, guys, why I messed something up, we had a table or a collection of all the themes, and then we had a global that pointed to the one theme that we wanted to use. And I replaced that with the whole collection. And this variable was meant to point to a record, not a whole table or collection. So that's where I went wrong. Okay, I'm going to refresh here. And I'm going to hit edit. And while we're waiting, guys, I want to just bring this up just in case you guys don't know. If you guys are watching this weekend, this is a Saturday, it is the 31st of August, or you're watching this tomorrow, which is, no, wait a second here. What is, Yeah. So today's Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday. So you have 2 full days to take advantage of this weekend offer. And I wanted to offer something drastic to celebrate I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I think I'm just a few hundred off from having 20,000 subscribers. And as a thank you to you guys for having an interest in my content and everything, I wanted to celebrate and sort of give back to you guys. So this is 50% off of everything that I offer. Okay. And I'm going to share this link here if you guys are interested in that. If you're not interested, you won't hurt my feelings at all. Okay. And yeah, there we go. Hopefully you guys are all a part of the free school community that I have here. You get a free crash course, and so you can access that. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Here's the garage work order system I was telling you guys about before. That's freely accessible. Yeah. Jed says just missing something. I don't know what that is, but let's see. Okay, so here's that over. It's read only. No, I closed out. I really did. So I don't know why it's sometimes Power Apps is confused there. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, thanks Franco for helping out with the links. I appreciate that. Okay, so notice that we don't have errors all over the place. Okay, now what I want to do is instead of doing a search for that global, it should be something like COL. Let's see here. Let's go full screen so we can see everything. COL themes. That's what I should be replacing. And that will be replaced with an FX themes. Okay, so now we're only replacing 6. That makes me feel a lot better. Yeah. And Cajun says, join the accelerator. It's worth it. Absolutely. Thank you, Cajun. Um, I assume that you are in the accelerator, and I'm very familiar with all of my accelerator students. It's a smaller, tight knit group of people. Perhaps I'm not familiar with your handle uh, of Cajun. Perhaps you're in Louisiana, perhaps. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to update these things. Now, there's one in the on start that we do not want to replace. Let's go find that. Okay. And that's the code comment. That's like whatever. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to go here and I want to leave that one alone as well. I'm going to go look at this one because we have it defined somewhere else. And I do want to replace that. Okay. I think we're good. I'm going to replace those 4. There we go. 3 of 4 were replaced. Unsupported replacement name is already used. So maybe it was trying to do this up here. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So now what I would want to do is go here. And if those were replaced all properly, I would be able to comment this out. So as you're moving things from app on start to app formulas, you probably want to take your time. You try to do too much at once, you're gonna mess something up and be like, oh, I messed it all up. What do I do? It's like a big Gordian knot. So look that one up, Gordian knot. Run on start, and we're looking good. Okay. Now the next thing that you would want to change, let's go over here to the got some app globals that are defined here. Okay. So this would be something else. Now, whenever you see curly braces within Power Apps, think, oh, that's a record, because it typically is. You got to use curly braces whenever you do update context. So all your local variables on the screen are sort of like fields within a one row record. Of course, a record is one row, right? Um, but yeah, here we have a record. So it's a global value that's got a bunch of named value pairs. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. Now, the set keyword is imperative. Can we have imperative code in at formulas? No, we cannot do that. So how are we going to handle that? Well, that's a great question. By the way, if you guys love this type of stuff, let me sort of show you what we do have available. You guys know that the community for the template version 2 is a membership. That's only $25 a month. I have another community for workshops. Typically, we do those every Friday. And we've had 25 workshops. So the last one we did was over solution and pipelines. And we do have a workshop in here called Modernizing Your App, where we talk about the process of moving things from app on start to app formulas in a lot of detail. Okay. So those are there and they're all time stamped. Okay. Just want to let you know about that. Okay. Here we are in app formulas. I'm going to go to the very top and let's paste our set. And if we have imperative code like this, like a set, can't use it. What are we going to do instead? We'll just take it out. Okay, so this is what's called, you can have two things within at formulas, either a named formula or a user-defined function. One of those two things, and they work similarly with just a few key differences. Now, what we've been doing so far, like with the themes, this is a named formula. We give it a name, and then we define it after an equal sign. Now, if you want to pass parameters in here, then that would be a user-defined function. Now, even if you have a user-defined function here, it does not mean that you can use imperative code like set or notify or patch or clear collect. So keep that in mind. You still can't do imperative type of stuff here. Now, instead of GBL app globals, we would say FX app globals. We don't use a comma, we use an equal sign. And we could have a curly brace there. We do need a semicolon here. Now, there's a very important question that you need to ask yourself if you're going to be using app formulas in this way. FX App Globals serves as application configuration settings. The important thing that you need to ask yourself is, do you ever need to change this while the user is using the application? If the answer is yes, you're going to have to use a global variable, because let's say, like, if we define this as we do here, I can't reference FX app globals and change this value at runtime. while the users use. I can go in here and change it right now, and it'll be changed for the app. But let's say we want to allow the user to change their theme, their color palette dynamically. Well, that would need to be a global. If you set it up that way, then it should work fine. But if you have something sort of hard coded, you can't change it. So these, a lot of times, app formulas are used like constants. If you're familiar with any type of traditional coding, you have variables that you can create. When you create a variable, you create a name for it, right? It's like a little name bucket that you can put something in. A constant is just like a variable, except when you set it, it just doesn't change. So you could store all this stuff in a database and reference that database. And in theory, it could be sort of dynamic that way. But what I found are named expressions like this. It will go get it once and it will just have it. If you want it to be dynamically updated, then you'll need to create it as a user-defined function. If you want to know more about user-defined functions and all that type of stuff, okay, look at this. Here's one. Here's a workshop we did called From OnStart to Formulas. Okay, in these workshops, they're typically every Friday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. EST, so 4 hours. So we go into it. We have you guys do some practical exercises or follow along as we go. And if anybody sort of gets stuck, we stop and make sure nobody is left behind. We'll cover all kinds of things in here. I need to do a better job at listing these things. So if anybody's interested in the workshops, so it's $25 membership and you get access to all of them, but also any of the ones that we do live. And now why did I come back here? There was something I was looking for. We've covered a lot of really cool stuff. I thought we had one on. Here's one on app formulas. I think we covered it pretty well in there. But something you need to realize if you want to do user-defined functions is you go in here and you go into settings, you go into updates, and you type functions. User-defined functions. And you got to turn it on. Now, some things are experimental and you may not want to use something that's experimental, but this is a sort of a cool thing that I typically do turn on and I do use. I'm surprised the PDF function is still experimental. I know it's not really completely fully baked yet, so it's probably appropriate, but it's such an in-demand feature. I wish it was more, they would focus on that more and like finish it. So anyway, yeah, I'll turn that on. Full page refresh is needed. That's fine. Close. So this is a second example of moving something over to app formulas. And I think everything in here wouldn't change at design time, so that's going to be fine. What I do like about my Jumpstart kit is if you go over here to the copy controls from here screen, or now it's called copy classic controls. What we have is when we clicked on one of these things, it would change the theme for the whole, I believe it would change it for the whole app. So it still is, but I haven't switched it over to start using what we just did in app formulas. Okay, I sort of liked that feature, so I need to think about if I really want to make it a constant or not. What do you guys think? Yeah, Franco, you're right. Yeah, I do get booked very good. If you guys ever want to like do a one-on-one chat, maybe show me your apps and you want to pick my brain for a few minutes, and I do like to meet with people because a lot of times with the YouTube channel, it feels like I'm just talking to a camera. But really, I'm talking to hundreds or thousands of people. So being able to talk to you guys one on one is sort of a cool experience for me. A lot of times people meet me on Zoom like, wow, I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity. And I'm like, I tell my wife that all the time, but I tell her, hey, I'm a big deal. Like, she just rolls her eyes at me, which hurts my feelings. But it's true. I do like to meet with you guys, see what you guys are doing, and I'm always open-minded to hear about how I can provide better content, maybe ideas for different things. And I think this green theme is bothering me, so I'm gonna go back to purple. Yeah. Um. So I'm trying to think of any other thing that would be really useful. Now, something I will say, we've had a lot of expressed interest in doing a workshop on APIs, specifically speaking, creating custom connectors, which is a feature within Power Apps. It allows you to call, for example, REST APIs. Here's custom connectors. What do we have over here? Anything? Probably nothing in this dev environment that I have. But if there's an API out there that you'd like to connect to, you could do so through a custom connector. Now there's over 1,000. I think it might be like 1,400 different connectors that we can use within Power Apps. I mean, just think about that. That's quite a bit. So if I go in here, there's all kinds of stuff I can connect to, all kinds of different apps. I mean, look at all this stuff. Now it does look like most of them you will need a premium license to access these things. But if there's, oh look, Azure OpenAI, there's all kinds of cool, interesting stuff. If you don't see it there, chances are you can create a custom connector. So we'll be covering that in the next workshop, which should be this next Friday, 1 p.m. EST. So if you like that, I think I've got everything linked to, if you're here within the free school environment, you see here it says Power Apps Workshops, Power Apps Templates. I also run another community called the Microsoft Stack. So if you're in IT or just work with a lot of Microsoft products, that's the topic of discussion here. So you see these 5 icons. These are the 5 communities I run in within school. If you don't know what school is, I've got a whole series of videos in every single one of these communities called School Orientation. And I did quite a few here, and may I say, I did an excellent job of making them entertaining and funny. So if you guys like my sense of humor, you guys are going to love these videos. All right. So on this Jumpstart kit, if there are any other features there, let me know. Like if you purchased it, like, hey, this works great. I just need this one little thing. Can you throw that in there? Just let me know. And eventually the version 2 that is driven by the community here will surpass that one in features and robustness. So just keep an eye out on that. Okay. Keep in mind that you can ask whatever questions you want to within the free school community. If you plan on taking advantage of this special, do so this weekend before the special is up. So I think I said the 1st, but really it's the 2nd. So it's a full 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Monday. So Monday at midnight. Otherwise, you guys enjoy your weekend, and you probably see some stuff up here on the screen right now if you're watching this on demand where I've got a recommended video here on my left side and a recommended playlist on my right side. Happy power apping. See you next time. Bye, guys.